Okay, so my name is Aslan, and I'm going to be doing this presentation on the mum test. So we're going to go through it, and then you'll kind of figure out what the mum test is rather than me telling you up front. And we're going to do this by doing a dialogue. So there's going to be two people. There's going to be me, and there's going to be mum. So question to think to yourself as well. Does your mum know about your business idea? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So let's see. Mom, I've got a business idea. Can I tell you about it? Your mum's going to say, of course, dear. But they're going to think in the brain, what is it this time? Because you've probably given loads of ideas to your mum, and she's going to be listening to all of them. So then you're going to go in, obviously, with a optimistic, hypothetical question. You like your phone, right? You do lose it a lot. And your mum's going to be like, yes. Obviously. So this is going to be her thoughts in blue, but she's not saying that out loud. But that's what she's thinking. She's on the phone, and you've disturbed me. So then you're going to ignore lukewarm signal. So you're going to say, would you like an app, which is a cookbook for your phone? And your mom's going to say, But she's going to think, would I really? But she's not going to say that to you because she's too nice, your mom. Then there's going to be a bit of masked hesitancy. So you're going to say, it only costs £20. That's cheaper than the hardback books on the shelf. And your mom's going to be saying, well, on the apps for free, that costs just a few pounds. So then you're going to maybe get a bit of feigning interests where you say you can share the recipes with your friends and even have a shopping list. And then your mom's going to be like, do the recipes have pictures? She doesn't really care at this point, but she's trying to act like she's interested. And again, it's not something that she's really keen on or really needs, but you haven't asked her that. And then you might get a non-committal compliment. So you're going to say, the best bit, we're going to hire your favorite actor to make some video recipes. Yes, dear, that sounds amazing. But really, she's thinking no one's going to pay £20 for this. So does your mum like your business idea? So if you're asking you, of course she does. Because all the answers you've got are answers that she's tailored towards you. And you've never asked any hard probing questions. You kind of tailored the narrative. And she's kind of fed that along. But if you asked her, she might give you a different answer. So a few moments later, you've completely misinterpreted the conversation and you've taken that as your business proposition validation. So you go to your mom and say, Mom, I've got something to tell you. It's like, yes, dear. I've quit my job, invested all my life savings into my new startup. Go. Thanks, Mom. Okay, good luck. Now what? So these kind of things happen all the time. You speak to your friend, you speak to your mom, you kind of give them an idealized pitch and they're just kind of being encouraging and supportive, be like, yeah, that sounds amazing, that sounds great. None of these answers are very committal, none of them are really that keen, but you need to be able to ask the right questions. So the purpose of the mom test is to set simple rules for crafting good questions so that even your mom can't lie to you. You want to make sure that whatever question you're asking your mom or asking anyone else, you're getting the questions answered in the way that gives you useful knowledge. So what will this look like? So let's try again. You and your mom. So instead of your idea, talk about their life. Hey mom, how's your new phone? Love it. Use it every day. What do you do on it? I read the news, catch up with my friends. Now you want to go into specifics. You want to try reference the past instead of giving generics or opinions about the future because you may not have that concrete idea, but you want to gather that data. So what's the last thing you did on it? She looked at holiday cottages to stay at. So now you want to ask a bit of a leading questions to try get more information about what she's actually using her phone for. So did you use an app for that? No. I just searched Google cottages. She Google searched cottages for Cornwall. So you want to get this user feedback and suggestions and act on it. So listen to the user. Talk less, listen more. What app should I have used? So while you ask, what normally apps do you have that you have on your phone? And she says, oh, I just get them from the Sunday paper. They have apps of the week. And then you want to think, so now you've got an idea, you want to do an app, you want to do based on holidays and cottages, and you want to tailor it. But how could this fail? So you've noticed cookbooks on the shelf, and you know where did she get them from? And she's saying, oh, it's one of those gifts that you get that you never need, especially at this age. It was from a friend Pat. So now you've kind of eliminated when you're talking about apps. So that's not a route for this specific person because they've already got books. They're probably experienced cook because it's your mom, and she's getting them as gifts. So you've got these kind of themes, and you want to try pulling all this information together. So we're going to try identify potential markets. So we've gathered she received it as a gift. So with the gift market may be strong. She's already got loads of books and she's probably experienced cook. So younger customers may be a better customer segment. So rather than shoehorning your idea to her and making her your ideal fit by creating video recipes of a favorite actor, you've just gathered the key information that you need from this idea and you're trying to tailor it. So it's time to refine your idea. So getting useful information, you can get anyone, and you just have to ask the right questions. So we're going to do like an interactive activity. We're going to see if this is a good or bad question. So saying this question, do you think it's a good idea? Hands up if you think it's a good question, hands up if you think it's a bad. So go with good. Bad? Okay, anyone want to volunteer? Why?
It's just very easy to get a nod, and that's it, and harder to get more information out of that.
Okay, anyone want to elaborate on that? Or
Is it masked hesitancy, or what's the other word?
masked hesitancy. So that's where someone doesn't want to tell you or elaborate, but they'll just be like, sounds good. But if you want to dig in deep, they will probably not have anything to substantiate or support it. So this is bad. Most of the time, opinions are worthless because you might not have an actual customer need. It might not be a profitable need. It might just be something that they're just saying because they want you to hear what you want to be told. So it's too vague. So how are you dealing with it now? What do you think? Good or bad? Why?
Well, I said that.
It's blank. What are you talking about?
No, but I also think you're opening. No, you're not just focusing on one side and saying either the good or the bad side, but you're also having some space to develop and not being too concrete in some stuff.
So that's exactly right. So no one's going to really tell you what they'll pay you, but they'll tell you what it's worth to them. So when you're asking them how are they dealing with it, they'll say, oh, I'm paying for X service, or I'm doing a mishmash of X, Y, Z, or I'm having to manually do it and it's taking me a really long time. So before you go into, oh, I've got an idea, how much you will pay for it, just try to find out what kind of existing solutions they have, how much they're paying for existing solutions, are there any existing solutions? And then you kind of build and iterate based upon key informations and key insights. So how much would you pay for X? What are we thinking? Bad? Good? Anyone with good? Okay. Do you want to give me your reason?
I don't think it's still quite open, isn't it? I don't know.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Could be better, but my experience, questions with how are more open than like, would you pay this much for it, right? It's less leading.
So it's less leading. So
Yeah.
is it a bad question that's not as bad, or is it a good question that's not as good? So you have to make it relative because
It's a good question that's not as good.
I think it's bad actually because you're assuming that they want to pay for it.
okay, so we've got some conflict.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say to someone straight away, how much would you pay? They'll be like, yeah, £5, £10, whatever they kind of gauge from how you're approaching the conversation. But they might not even have any intention of buying. They might say, oh yeah, this thing will sell for £100. But they never said, I'll pay for £100 today. So it's a non-committal answer. So you're not really getting any real tangible feedback from that. Is there anything else I should have asked? What do we think? Good?
It's like the perfect question, isn't it?
Okay.
You need the interview for me.
Okay, so why do you think it's a perfect question?
Like basically, you know, when like at the end of an interview or something, and they're like, "Have you got any questions for me?" And then you're like, "Yeah," you're like, "Oh, why
Make
is
up a
your
question.
salary on the LinkedIn post or something like?" I don't know. But then like if you ask that, it shows that there's more you're willing to learn, and you don't know what you don't know. So you're asking them to fill in the blanks, basically.
So exactly. So people do want to help you, but they're rarely going to do so unless you give them an excuse. So they might be shy. They might not just think it's the right time in the conversation to ask. When you're sitting down and people are asking questions, and you might be thinking, "Oh, I really want to ask this, but I really can't be bothered asking it, or I don't want to sound silly." Or, but if you ask them, is there anything else? Maybe people might volunteer information that you might not have even thought of. So there's nothing wrong with that. You can only learn more. So talk me through the last time this happened. Anyone for bad idea? Bad question? We're all good? Anyone want to volunteer why they think it's good?
I think it's good because it goes back to that first concept you talked about of them walking you through a problem they had instead of telling you if your solution is good or not.
Exactly. And to expand on that, once people tell you what they've done and they're trying to talk you through it, you can kind of find where problems are, where inefficiencies are, and what the customer thinks the problems is. And then you kind of can go and think, I can improve this by that, or my solution can address this point. And so you know how to market it to this customer, or you can kind of identify what the customer has issues with or what they want the problem to be solved rather than what your solution wants. So then that could be something you can pivot towards, or maybe new streams where you can diversify your solution towards. What are the implications of that? Bad? Good? Anyone? Okay, so it's a good. So some questions and some problems, they don't actually matter, or there might not be any money in it. So if you give someone a solution, you can tie your shoelaces 1 second quicker with this special kind of smooth shoelace. No one's going to really care. Yeah, it might be better, but firstly, is there a problem? Then secondly, do lots of people have that problem? Are people willing to purchase that? And is there any real need for it? So these are kind of key questions. Going back to one of our previous speaker, the second previous speaker, where he said that his medication was 2-3% more effective, but then they changed their guidance to wanting it 20% more effective. Just because yours is better, it needs to be quantifiably better to make it value for the money you're charging more, or in which case you're charging less, but still you need to make people, convince them to change over. Because if your solutions are comparable but you're charging less money, it's still a big headache for companies to change over to your solution and then retrain staff. All these extra hidden costs that you might not have accounted for, and say yours is 95% of the cost, but there might be 100% more costs on the side of the business in order to implement these, or for the user to change their lifestyle in order to fit around your solution. So all these kind of things are really important considerations. So you have to consider the implications. And what else have you tried? Anyone for bad? Good? Why?
Why?
Yeah.
It's a nice open question about alternatives, right? You're still opening up the chance that they haven't tried anything else, and that's a good data point to obtain.
Exactly. So you also want to think if they've got any ways of solving it already, and they might not have looked for, or you could buy yours, or what kind of other solutions are out there in terms of competition related that you might have thought of, or you might have think is a different competition category to yours, but actually people are using that to try to meet their own solution, and then you can kind of gauge and estimate where your product positioning fits in with this. Where does the money come from? Do you think that's a good question? Do you think it's a bit rude to ask? What are your thoughts? Anyone want to take this one?
Which money?
For your
Interviewing money launderers.
no. Where's the money come from? No. So in a business to business context, you need to really ask this. So I don't know if you watch The Apprentice, or when they go and ask the customer and they spend like half an hour talking to them, and they agree a deal, they agree a price, but then they realize that this person doesn't have any purchasing power. they're just a person who's got limited responsibility or authority and they need to run by their manager or the owner for any kind of commercial decisions, then you're going to be wasting your time. It's good to have these conversations and kind of get your exposure to your products, but unless you're speaking to real decision makers, either the purchasing or have influencing on the purchasing, you're going to end up nowhere. You might end up talking to a shopkeeper in like JD Sports where you want to sell your trainers, or you want to be talking to the person who's got the authority, the buyer, to actually put these products into the store. So it's really important, especially when you're not talking to just directly a customer, but when you're trying to make deals and relationship with businesses, that you are speaking to people at the appropriate level who have the appropriate seniority or the ability to get it done for you. Who else should I talk to? So again, it's good tailoring onto previous. So once you're speaking to a person, let's say purchasing or let's say marketing, and we've identified this is an interesting solution, and you treat people well, you talk to them, you maintain your relationships, so you're going to get lots of introductions, you're going to get lead multiplications. So a buyer might say, oh, this is really good. We source it for, we're a wholesaler for lots of distributions and lots of manufacturers, and I can put you in touch with lots of these different companies because they might be able to manufacture it, get your prices cheaper, and then that'll help us as well as distributors. We can distribute it, or a marketing agency might be like, oh, we've got lots of different relationships with these existing companies and we might think there's a fit, let me introduce you to them. So talking to people who got purchasing power, but also people who are key opinion leaders or key influence leaders, or people who actually can make useful connections to your customers, or just to businesses in general, which will really help. So that's something you should always think about. It's no point thinking, oh, this person's only got small shop. They might not be useful to my business. I've got a big meeting with a big company, but you might have better chance with this small company, and they might be a part of an independent association of many small businesses in like the tens of thousands across the country. And if they can make you a connection with the overarching umbrella, then you've just suddenly got loads of these small businesses which may affect have a cumulative impact bigger than a medium-sized company or a large company. So it's always good to build relationships and to maintain relationships because they can accumulate and pay dividends in the future. Another question, would you buy a product which did X? Hands up if you think it's a good question. Hands up if you don't think it's a good question. Okay, someone hasn't talked before, yeah?
I mean, I think it's a bit leading. At some point, I don't think the answer that you're going to get with this question is not as valuable as the one we discussed before. Would you buy a product which did X? Yes, no. It's really not in-depth answer, in my opinion. But it could be wrong as well.
So yeah, you're right. So it's a leading question, and if it's involving a future, at best, it might be an over-optimistic lie. And I'm not saying that this isn't useful at all, that you might get some good feedback, but you shouldn't be basing your business entire like the mom test. Oh, it's good. Yes, I'm going all in. You can just use this as one of many data factors, but unless they're willing to buy it right here, right now, or even make a pre-order purchase to actually put like skin in the game, then you shouldn't put too much emphasis on this as itself. Why do you bother? Do you think you should be asking people that? Do you think it's a bit harsh? A bit abrupt?
Maybe the wording is harsh, but you should ask.
So as long as you deliver it in a way that you're speaking respectfully and not confrontationally, but out of genuine interest, then that's going to be really pivotal, because you're going to be shooting in the blind unless you really understand their goals. You might have a solution, they might have a problem, but they might have different goals intended for the solution to their problem that they wanted, whereas your product might not be able to meet their goals. So even though you may think there's a product market fit, it might not be a full fit, and that's when competitors can come in and steal your lunch. So it's really important to find out what the customer really wants, and are you providing everything in its entirety, and if that's even feasible. So this is something of an activity. You don't have to write it down, but just ask each other questions next to you, opposite you, talk about your business, and then try to get feedback from them. Am I asking the right question? How could I improve my question? Should I be asking a different question? And just spend about 5-10 minutes having a chat, and then maybe if we have 5 minutes left, we can have a bit of a feedback. But just this is your chance. Ask people because they're going to have the similar questions to you, and they might think of a new way of approaching this question, and they can apply that question to an existing use case. They might have a big meeting or a small meeting or just general information. So really make the use of these 10 minutes. Just ask questions. No one cares. No one's going to really bother. So just good questions, bad questions, any type of questions. This is your kind of pitching practice. So you might as well do it here before you go into a big meeting. So I'm just going to give you 10 minutes for that. Just, yeah, carry on.